When Captain America throws his mighty shield, all those who chose to oppose his shield must yield. And something to something red, white and blue. Captain America throws his mighty shield. In my defense, these cartoons were never really a thing here at all, ever.
Dutchman versus Captain America Civil War.
Okay, so I know I said last week I was going to do something I'd been preparing for, and I've gotten some footage, but you know, I'd rather get the footage myself than pluck it from somewhere on the internet. It doesn't feel as genuine, but another thing came in between as well, and an impromptu showing of Captain America Civil War. Hang on. There we go, isn't that just great? It's like high fucking noon in here. It's 10 o'clock in the evening, doesn't matter. I got lights. These lights, they're everywhere. Okay, that one didn't do anything. So, I saw Captain America Civil War a week before the United States of America. In your face, Yankees. Who won World War II now, eh? Slight rhetorical question. Bear in mind, I will be discussing spoilers. I may not be intensely going after them like, oh, Superman and Batman become friends because both their mums are named Martha, but I am going to go through the story bit by bit to handle what I liked and what I didn't like and what I think worked in the film. Okay, so as of recording this, I've seen the film yesterday, and this is going up probably like late evening 2 days later. So the shooting day in the middle is always today. Normally I like to think about films a little bit before I actually start discussing them, because I often feel like if I'm by myself, they don't gestate well enough, they don't stew in my brain. I wish I had to stew in my brain. So I'm afraid I might sound too fanboyish or too easily impressed. If you watch when I do Doctor Who exactly, I'm usually like right off the bat of the episode, and I'm usually filled with glee and easily excitement, which is completely unlike me at all, because I'm a very cynical man. Yes. So Captain America Civil War has lots of characters. Everybody and their uncle is in it. My uncle's in it. The Hulk isn't in it. Thor isn't in it. Nick Fury isn't. Aside from that, everybody you can think of. Aside from that one, and that one, and that one, and Janet. Lots of people aren't in this. I think because of the amount of supporting cast we get from other films that who all seem to fit into the narrative, I don't want to say seamlessly, but they maybe don't fit in the narrative seamlessly, but they fit in the context of the story, the two different things. So all the characters, they feel part. It's not as if Ant-Man, which is obviously more geared towards comedy than, let's say what? Fuck, what's the last movie before this? I don't even know. But Ant-Man, Paul Rudd, is a brilliant addition to the cast, even though he's only in it for a bit. But all these extra characters, they kind of make it difficult for me to say whether or not I like this film more than The Winter Soldier. I think it's like a near unanimous conclusion for everybody who's ever seen all the Marvel movies, including the one-shots and double takes and miniseries. Captain America, The Winter Soldier is probably one of the more qualitative films of said Marvel universe. So like I said, I really like this film a lot. I want to say it's better than The Winter Soldier, but like, again, am I just too dazzled by the fact we got Tony Stark, we got War Machine, we got Scarlet Witch, we've got Vision. Or is it just legit better? I am a bit of a comic book mark, if you hadn't realised by now. I don't know everything, but especially more recent goings on, I've kind of fell out the boat. But things of yesteryear, like the 70s, 80s, 90s, most of the 90s, not all of the 90s, mid-2000s, I can get along. I know most of the stuff that's going on. So when I heard they were doing Civil War, I was weary, because Civil War was not really well known as a good miniseries or overarching event. It split the fan base pretty much in the middle, especially because of Iron Man just coming off as a gigantic dick. But that's what I like the most about this film. They give us legit reasons why these while the heroes are at odds with each other. Iron Man is still fresh off of Age of Ultron, and we get a good reminder that it's not just a small thing. The Avengers mucking about does have an impact. Of course, we get an action sequence cementing that first, which gives us a very good adaptation of Crossbones, I think. As you might know him as Rumlow in The Winter Soldier, the Hydra agent that fought the Falcon in that collapsing building, for if you don't know who Crossbones is. So that's basically the opening scene of the film. They're in Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to get a lot of things confused. I'm not very good with names, geography especially. So, they allude to him hating us, and there's this plan, and they're scoping out a potential hit, and they make out what Crossbones is planning to do. He hits up this secret base full of infectious diseases, and basically, guy pulls no punches. He basically tries to blow up Black Widow without blinking an eye. He sees Captain America for the first time, pulls out an anti-tank weapon. Fuck! The sheer ruthlessness of the character. I fucking loved it. If you know Civil War from the comic books, the thing that set it off was a battle between a villain whose superpower was to explode harmlessly, at least for himself. And when he exploded, he took out a superhero team of D-list level and a tool. Of course, we couldn't have that super villain and the heroes and blowing up a school in the middle of America. Maybe slightly tasteless, seeing as what happened recently. So instead, they blow up a random building which happened to have a bunch of Wakandans in it, which is how we get our Black Panther into the movie. So Iron Man gets confronted with a lady who lost her son due to the events of Age of Ultron. And in the comics, again, I'm going to be doing the back and forth between comics a lot, because Iron Man gets pat on because he could have stopped the villain that made himself explode when Iron Man was someone else not affiliated with this team of heroes at all. Here we have a woman who's the mother of a soldier who died in Sokovia. And she doesn't go overboard, she just shows him a picture and what he was doing. And we see the grief actually getting to Iron Man. And I like this rendition a lot more. It actually gives us something tangible, like Tony's not just snark and witticisms and happy-go-lucky, go about your thing, I'm a superhero, best day of your life. Back to the explosion. Oh right, there was an explosion, yeah, blew up Wakandans. I have terrible ADHD, by the way. I should get a lectern and be like writing down my keywords. I'll get on that. Right, so Crossbones, unfortunately, falls victim of the Marvel superhero curse, or basically any superhero's supervillain curse. He dies. He just blows himself up. I'm severely disappointed. I wish Marvel would take more time fleshing out these actors, these villains. Because aside from Loki, we don't have any recurring bad guys. Maybe Thanos. But Thanos has just been manipulating Ronan the Destroyer and sat about a little bit. Maybe the Collector counts. But then again, the Collector's just been a background character, mostly. But this is the event that causes the United Nations to say, enough is enough. The Avengers have to be restrained. Which is better than saying, oh, all superheroes should register their secret identities. Because, A, not a lot of these superheroes in these movies have secret identities. Fuck me. The first thing Black Panther does after his first action scene is just popping off his mask and be like, I'm the Black Panther. Fantastic big chase scene. So the events of Nigeria, they lead to the Sokovia Accords, where the United Nations get to decide in which cases the Avengers get used. Or in some cases don't get used. This is where the teams obviously split into two. Iron Man is still fresh off of, you know, the kid that died. Captain America is like the true and blue superhero who says, but what if somebody decides we don't get used in a situation where we have to? Obviously, because he's the hero. Where Captain America is being optimistic, Tony Stark seems to be realistic. Because he's just seen the consequences of the actions of the Avengers. So, pretty much it's obvious, you know who's on whose side. But this leads to several scenes in the United Nations in Berlin. Berlin is where we first meet King T'Chaka and T'Challa, the Black Panther. T'Challa, I'm very happy with the actors they chose for T'Chaka and T'Challa. What's the guy's name? Bosley? Black Panther actor. Chadwick Boseman. Excellent actors. I'm also happy they didn't decide to go with a route of both T'Chaka and T'Challa speaking with some kind of a refined, obvious American accents or obvious English accents. Where, listen to me, I'm faking I sound British. This is not what I normally sounded like before I moved to England. So they do sound like they're the leaders of an African nation. Unfortunately, knowing T'Chaka is short-lived. Black Panther gets his entire origin condensed without seeing how he got his powers in somebody else's movie. Which I think is good, because I think we've had enough origin movies. I'm already kind of disappointed that Doctor Strange is going to be one as well, because they said after Avengers Age of Ultron there would be no more origin movies. Pretty sure everything else is going to be origin movies from now on, so Marvel's pretty much lied to us. So Berlin, the UN embassy gets blown up. They suspect the Winter Soldier's behind it, because he was shown leaving this, the place where some kind of bomb went off. This leads us to Bucharest. This movie goes all over the globe with these massive annoying fonts in the middle of the screen like, Bucharest! Normally they do these little things right here, there. Where they say like, oh, Paris, Texas. Or Hong Kong, China. But here in this film, gigantic white fonts all across there. Amsterdam, Netherlands. Just in case you didn't know, Amsterdam, Netherlands. It's just a minor niggle, but you know, sometimes you gotta vent about the minor niggles. So in Bucharest, Captain America managed to find the Winter Soldier pretty quickly. The anti-terrorist task force, or the joint terrorist task force, I'm not quite sure what they named themselves, led by Sharon Carter, are not very far behind him. This leads to a great chase scene where, first off, the Winter Soldier, he fights off everybody literally everybody. The Joint Terrorist Task Force, with the help of Steve's trying to get him to not kill people. Bucky's obviously not trying to kill people, but he's not going soft on them, so sometimes he forces Steve to rescue them, and I love that. It's like he knows Captain America, so he's using Captain America against Captain America. So they're chasing him through these big underground tunnels, these traffic tunnels, you know the type. You've seen the trailers. And they're running faster than cars. Bucky's running across cars. Steve's like, on your left. And then Black Panther zooms past him. He's like, no, on your left. Fucking hell. The entire movie throughout, if you like Black Panther is Mr. Give No Fucks. He does what he wants. Doesn't let anybody stop him. And if he does get stopped, it's not even he gets stopped. He's just like, okay, but how about I just keep going? If you come out of this movie for one character, go see it for Black Panther. Or maybe Spider-Man. It's quite literally... I can't think of a superhero movie that had a chase scene which is done better than this. I mean, come on, how many chase scenes do you get in superhero films where somebody's trying to escape and the other is after him and it doesn't lead up with the collapsing of an entire tunnel? Running faster than cars! Fuck me. So, they capture the Winter Soldier and he gets put into one of these little Hannibal Lecter boxes. And in the meantime, it's not been very prominent, but we have had other supporting characters, obviously Baron Zemo, or just Zemo in this case, because he's not an aristocrat. And he gets to spring his actual trap. He wanted the Winter Soldier to get caught, so he could get into the Joint Terrorist Task Force and release him using codes that we've seen in the opening scene of the film. For what reason, we'll find out later. And it's a pretty cliche thing to have the bad guy caught for the sake of, this was my plan all along. I've ranted about this before somewhere else in the long grey distant past. Star Trek 2, The Dark Knight, third thing. Come on, I had this before. The Avengers, there we go, Loki did it. So, we have the Winter Soldier now escaped. Nobody has their super suits. And everybody gets their asses handed to them. Everybody. Sharon Carter steps. It's like an algorithm of like increasing difficulty levels. I think first is Iron Man. Or first is Sharon Carter, who's just an agent, gets her ass beat. Iron Man shows up, but he's not. The Tony Stark doesn't have a suit. He just has the one glove, and he gets his ass beat. Black Widow shows up. She does pretty decent, but we already know from the Winter Soldier that she doesn't stand a chance. She gets her ass beat. Black Panther shows up and he does pretty well despite not having his mini-gun-proof vibranium supersuit. But the Winter Soldier still escapes. And then Captain America manages to get to him. And he takes him down. He takes a fucking helicopter down without a shield. Oh, this movie, honestly. Then we get to the big climactic middle piece of the film, where the people who are against the registration have now managed to sneak away, and the pro-registration sides are being tasked by General Thunderbolt Ross of Thunderbird to track them down. We get suddenly... Stop. We have to focus on Spider-Man and promote his upcoming movie, starring that one woman that looks kind of like the mother from Gilmore Girls but isn't. Seriously, the film just takes about 15 minutes to build up Peter Parker and an apartment in Queens, and that he's basically just started out being Spider-Man 6 months ago, Tom Holland is a little boy from Britain. Okay, I say little boy, he's 19. I do apologise. When I was 19, I thought I was a big, strong man. Probably was about as tall, but not quite as big. I seriously need to lose weight. So, Tom Holland is a little chap from Britain who's 19, pretends he's a boy from Queens who's 15. He fucking nails that accent. I couldn't tell he wasn't from the UK. Look, it's flawless. Oh, by the way, Martin Freeman shows up as Everett Ross from the Black Panther comics. Guess who's going to be in the Black Panther movie in 2017? It's Everett Ross, it's Martin Freeman. He does it as well. But anyway, back to Spider-Man. I have terrible ADHD. It's a very comedic bit, which lightens the mood, because I feel like the start of the film has been relatively serious, and building up to the airport scene, which we know from the trailers, everything is somewhat light-hearted. Like the entire Tony Peter thing, where he convinces him to join their side because, oh, basically this. Steve meeting up with Sharon Carter, who gives them their super suits back, and Bucky is in the back of a small Volkswagen Beetle, and Bucky moans to Sam Wilson like, "Can you put your seat up?" Because it's a small little Volkswagen Beetle. Even though I'm quite sure I'm taller than Sebastian Stan and Sam Wilson. Falcon actor Anthony Mackie. So Clint Barton is back. He takes Wanda, by the way, who's blown up, crossbones inadvertently into some kind of building with a Wakandans in it, has been kept inside the Avengers compound by Vision. They get a little budding, I don't want to say romance, but it's definitely like feelings, like they recognise the other as a person and they're fond of each other at the very least. I like that. It was a good nod to the comics. So, we have everybody lined up. Paul Rudd joins the cast. He's like, "Hey, I'm Ant-Man. Nice to meet you. Ooh, Captain America. I love you, Captain America." Iron Man, War Machine, Captain America face off. Basically showing each other like, "Oh, I got more toys in my line than you do." And this is the big airport fight. The bit with Spider-Man. Spider-Man is not really a trump card because he shows up at the start. I thought the second trailer for Civil War kind of implied that Iron Man was keeping him secret. Like, under rose! Like, to steal the shield away. No, Spider-Man's there from the start. And Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I don't want to say best Spider-Man ever, but I don't know how much of a fan you might be, you, the person here, of the Spider-Man series directed by Sam Raimi, or the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 with Amazing Spider-Man actor Andrew Garfield. So, I don't know how much of a big fan you are of those films, but personally, while they are varying qualities, one of my biggest points always had been Spider-Man never really felt like Spider-Man. If you've seen Deadpool recently, Spider-Man is a bit like Deadpool. He jokes constantly. He doesn't stop talking, except a little bit less R-rated, a little bit less inclined to stab people, you know, with swords and turn them into filet-o-man. Here, Spider-Man does not shut up. He's constantly, unless he's getting his ass beat, he's constantly joking and in over his head. And if he knows Spider-Man, he should be in over his head. He's wowed by the science around him. He gets punched by the Winter Soldier, and he's like, "Is that a metal arm? Awesome!" The fuck? Goes to Falcon's like, are those wings some kind of a collapsible and then science fictional carbohydrate titanium? Because that would explain the ability why they can fly. Joking about Star Wars, they can do that now because Star Wars belongs to Disney. And they actually showcase the fact he's got brains and he doesn't stop talking. So, if, like I said, if you go to see this movie for one character, make it Black Panther. If you're not going to see this for Black Panther, go see this movie for Spider-Man. That half hour, I think, he's in it, it's gold. It makes me very hopeful for whatever Spider-Man Homecoming is going to be. So, basically the airport fight's going like, oh wow, I got toys. Wow, I got bigger toys. And they go like, poo 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 poo. Basically the entire airport fight is like, wow, I got toys. Oh, I got more toys. Wow, you guys got bigger toys. And all of a sudden like, whoa, I am a very big toy. Holy shit. This is a serious review. So yeah, there's a thing in the thing. And I said I was going to do spoilers, but I'm not actively seeking them out. So, the Spider-Man Bucky fight, fantastic. Ant-Man fights Black Widow, and Iron Man is great. Vision does things. The Vision seems to be like an impartial combatant. Like he's part of the fight, but he doesn't really want to fight. So the thing about the airport fight is everybody was concerned with how the film had too many characters and it might not have been a true Captain America film. The airport basically cuts out everybody except Captain America, Bucky Barnes, Black Panther and Tony Stark. Because at this point, Captain America and Bucky Barnes had discovered that secret villain had set up Bucky as the Winter Soldier to be the assassin, even though he wasn't, of King T'Chaka. And he's now going to Siberia to seek out more Winter Soldiers. Captain America's team thought that Team Iron Man wasn't going to believe them. Is it fair enough? If you like on the run because you freed a criminal and you'd be like, yeah, but there's a bad guy out there. He wants us to not escape. That, fair dues, I wouldn't believe that either. So, Iron Man managed to get this information from Sam Wilson when he thinks there might be something up. So, Captain America and the Winter Soldier are in Siberia chasing the real bad guy, Zemo. Like I said, he's not really been big in this film. He's just been behind the scenes because his thing had been driving it, but he's not been the focus. So, Captain America and the Winter Soldier think alongside Iron Man that these 5 new Winter Soldiers, or 4 new Winter Soldiers, 5 or 4, I don't know, are going to get released, and they could potentially, due to their ability to blend in and follow commands, they could dismantle some countries within 30 days. This is an actual quote they give the movie, they're like 30 days. And this is where the movie takes a terrific turn in my opinion. Like I said earlier on, the comics, Iron Man fighting Captain America in the Civil War is really much more a case of we want you to fight the good guys because this reason. Here, if you go into the movie actively rooting for a team, like say hashtag Team Cap or hashtag Team Iron Man, you can actually still find the good reason why this hero is fighting the other hero. At no point does Tony Stark go into cloning evil cybernetic heroes, happened, making alternate dimensional prisons, happened, robbing people's powers with nanites, happened, ordering supervillain teams, happened, putting Norman Osborn, he who killed Spider-Man's girlfriend, happened, to be in charge of one of supervillain's teams. Iron Man goes to Siberia because he trusts Steve. He does think Steve is trying to do the right thing. He even stands down, he doesn't try to bring Bucky in. Black Panther chased down Iron Man with his superior Wakandan tech. And the start of the film, we saw the Winter Soldier take out a stretch car. Not a very big car, but a nice car. 1991 Siberia. Zemo asked this information later on when he released the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes, from the Joint Terrorist Task Force. We see a little bit more. We see what was kept in the back seats of the car, or the trunk of the car. When we first see Tony Stark in the film, not Iron Man, Tony Stark, it's a simulated VR flashback based on the hippocampus of your brain, where you keep traumatic memories. He changed it a little bit using his technology, where he can say things which he hadn't, like he knew his mum and dad were going to die in that memory. So the last thing he says to his dad is, "I love you." The last thing his mum says to him is, "You know what's going to happen next. Don't let it end like this." It's a good bridging point that brings us to here and now in the film. This is like the biggest spoiler. If you've already, you could have surmised this from the Winter Soldier. You could have known this, like, oh, I knew that all along. It's just the writers took this long to get to the point where I am. This is spoiler, like the last biggest spoiler. We've seen the fight scene in some trailers, but this is what drives them to it. Last warning. Okay. Zemo is in the bunker with the Winter Soldiers. The last 4 or 5, I don't know, I can't count, I can't do math. I can't do math, I can't do names. The Winter Soldiers are dead. Zemo is there only for one reason and one reason alone. He shows us the same opening scene for the 3rd time. What happened in Siberia, 1991. He shows us, the audience, what Captain America knew in the Winter Soldier. Tony never knew this. Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, killed Howard Stark and his mother Mary Stark. They show this in rather graphic detail. So Howard Stark crawls out of a crashed car, pleading for help, going, my wife, please help my wife." We see the Winter Soldier basically punch his face until it's caved in. We then hear Mary Stark, still alive, going like, Howard, help me." The Winter Soldier props up the dead corpse of Howard Stark inside the car. Mary Stark sees this happening. She can't move because she's just been in a car crash. And it's the Winter Soldier. He walks around the car, he chokes her to death. Tony Stark sees all of this happening. And whatever you think of Tony Stark, if he'd been in the wrong in this film, if he'd been in the wrong in the comic books, definitely was wrong in the comic books. Whatever you think of the arrogant bastard, the guy who refuses to take responsibility for his actions up until this point, the man who is so flippant about his past and non-caring about how his world gets affected by every time repeating his same mistakes. Iron Man, he stops his weapons productions. Iron Man 2, he stops governments from copying his work. Iron Man 3, he gets Happy Hogan hospitalized. The Avengers, Age of Ultron, everything in his life, everything is always due to his past mistakes, and he's just seemingly like always running away from it, but Tony Stark is a flawed hero. It's fun to root for him. It doesn't always mean he is good to root for. In an ensemble like with the Avengers, he's usually like, well, he's the fun one, but it doesn't mean he's the right one. He sees his own parents being killed by a man less than 6 feet away from him. He thinks one of his friends, despite the way how he treats everybody he likes with a certain degree of animosity, has hidden this information from him for at least like a year. I think it's been a year since Age of Ultron. I think they dropped that number a couple of times. No matter what I think about my own mother, whatever you might think about your own mother, some people might have issues, some people don't. Tony barely knew his up until the age of like 18. He was studying abroad, 21 maybe. And he doesn't go livid, he doesn't go mental. Tony Stark goes, and this is the worst bit, he goes quiet. No more jokes. No more wisecracks. Tony actually kind of scared me in how bad I felt for him at that point. Steve is trying to urge the Winter Soldier to get away. Tony basically brings down the base around them. It's like it's like a missile silo where they're in. There's a very high ceiling, and it's like Star Wars-esque pillars crumbling down. At one point, Captain America pleads with him, like, Tony, listen to me. And Iron Man goes like, I can't do it, Cap. You killed my mom. That line, Jesus Christ. It's just a superhero movie. It's like, people give the Marvel Universe grief for being too light-hearted. Some people are happy with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman being a more serious take about superheroes. You can't tell me you can watch Iron Man go like, Iron Man watch his own parents' deaths, and then say to one of his friends like, he killed my mom, and think it's just that's not a tear, I'm just leaking bodily fluids. It's, fuck me, that line got to me. The last fight scene, unfortunately, lots of it was spoiled in several trailers and extra scenes where you see like Captain America and the Winter Soldier tag team Iron Man, but they make it very clear that it's only because of the circumstances they managed to take Iron Man down. And even still, Captain America has an indestructible shield. If it hadn't been for that fact, both him and Bucky would have been dead like 3 times over. Plus, Tony didn't seem to be very, let's say, his usual self. He's so consumed with rage and so consumed with hatred, foregoing common sense. Like, his weapon systems get damaged, so he's like, I'm eyeballing it, and he just blows up those gigantic lids for missile silos. He blows up one at the hinges just to bring it down on a single person, knowing fully well he's underneath it and Captain America's underneath it. How the fight ends, I'm not gonna talk about, because, well, you know whose name is in the title. But this brings me back to the Black Panther. Remember the Black Panther, right? The guy, Mr. Give No Fucks. He managed to chase down Iron Man, and he managed to ninja his way all over the secret base, and he finds Zemo. And remember when I said earlier on, the Marvel villain movie curse, or just every superhero movie curse, they kill off all the fucking interesting villains. So we get Zemo, and this guy has not had much screen time at all. It's just been in the background a little bit, a couple of scenes here, a couple of scenes there. You know what he's done, and you know where he's going. But we get his motivation, and this is my, at the moment, it's, later on when I've seen the film, I'll probably come up with more, like, 2 days after seeing The Force Awakens, I still couldn't come up with a negative thing to say about it. Now I'm like, okay, maybe The Force Awakens has these issues, like a myriad, but they don't hinder me that much. But okay, so my current biggest problem is a very cliche villain story for Zemo. Zemo is not the son of a Baron Zemo that fought Captain America in World War II. Zemo is a guy who lost his family due to the effects of the fight in Sokovia. When the floating island came back down and the Avengers thought they'd saved the planet, the impact caused Zemo's family, being protected by his father, like his wife and his kids, they all died. They got crushed by rubble, and his father was found on top of them trying to protect them from harm. It's a bit cliche. I mean, okay, fair enough. As villains go, like somebody who's coming to take revenge for hubris you don't remember causing. Iron Man has had that several times now in the past. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were exactly this in the Age of Ultron. It's not a bad story for a villain, but it's been done before. It is very sympathetic. It is like, okay, you get where this is coming from, but to say it's remarkable, special, no. But this guy, this Zemo in this film, is just a dude, and with just thinking and plotting, without actual supervillains or super beings or motoristic mechanisms or cosmic creations, he managed to drive a wedge into the biggest superhero team on the planet. He managed to split apart Captain America and Iron Man. And Black Panther managed to find him. And Black Panther confronts him knowing like, oh, well, I nearly killed the wrong man. And Zemo apologises for having to kill his dad. This is such a warped context, isn't it? It's like, he didn't want to kill his dad, but he had to kill his dad in order to incite the events that happened. So like I said, the Marvel villain superhero curse. He puts a gun to his head, he pulls the trigger. Black Panther stops him. So happy with this. You can't believe how happy I was with this. Come on. We finally get a villain who seems like really cool and clever and planning, scheming. And instead of killing him off by letting him put a bullet through his head, T'Challa, sick of becoming a revenge-driven character like everybody else in this fucking film, stops him. Because he's like, I'm tired of being consumed with rage. I'm not trying to do his accent. I'm just trying to, you know, not sound very usual me. So he stops him from being killed. And fucking Zemo gets put into one of those Hannibal Lecter boxes. That felt good. That's basically the climax of the film. Captain America and Bucky escape, and Iron Man escapes, and we get a sequel hook. Like, you know, and we get a sequel hook. And that's basically the end of the film. Captain America escapes. Bucky escapes. Iron Man lives to fight another day. We get a sequel hook. And we get a proper James Bond will return in. Except, you know, not James Bond, but rather Tom Holland. It doesn't sound anything like James Bond, but Spider-Man does. Spider-Man will return in. Ah, God. You know what? I think I do like this film more than Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier was an excellent, like, espionage film. And it showcased Captain America and Bucky Barnes brilliantly. But in the end, what brought this film to a climax was completely understanding why the final fight was happening, but not being unable to root for either side. Because, you know, on the one hand, Captain America was trying to defend his friend who had been brainwashed his entire life to be a mindless drone. On the other hand, you had Tony Stark, who now seen a murderer in one of his friend's best friends. Fuck me. If you have sat through this entire rambling thing and it's still not been released in America, why would you watch throughout all these spoilers? If you haven't seen this and you didn't want to see this, go see this. Fuck you. If you really like Batman v Superman and don't like Marvel movies, but you're watching this until this point, really, I haven't seen Batman v Superman, but if you like that film, fine. I'm just saying I really like this film. I'm not saying this film is better than that film. Maybe it's just different strokes for different blokes, alright? Just go see this. Please. Shit. I can't believe the next film is only in November. That's Doctor Strange. And then afterwards, the next one is Guardians of the Galaxy 2 in 2017. People complain these things are coming out too far in between. Got more problems with the fact that I now have to wait more until I see more Captain America. Because he's not coming back anytime soon, is he? He's not back until the next Avengers. Shit. Fuck. Anyway, that's been that. I hope you like the new lights. I have to start working on a set. I still have to make that video I promised last week. It was supposed to be a think piece of some sorts. My critical overthinkings, they have to start becoming a little bit more coherent. Like I said, invest in the lectern, call it Hannibal, put keywords on it, do my thing. If you like this, please subscribe. If you hate me, like. If you want to fuck me, comment down below. If you think I'm a big fat ugly bastard with a strawberry smear on his face, please send me all the hate things on Twitter, on Facebook, on Tumblr. I've got all of those. You'll see them after the static.
Shutdown initiated.
Bye.